There's always something you can do. When I get blown off, these officers, they're without any incentive. See, if Sarah Bacon was to call them up with me and take an active role in this and explain to these officers with me, it would make a difference. If Kayla Trujillo would make those calls with me and explain what she knows, if these people would explain to these officers that I'm telling the truth and they need to listen, they need to do something, but they need to make those calls with me, not for me, and say later on, oh yeah, I made those calls. Well, you know what? The officer said that you didn't, so how am I supposed to believe you? That's why I record everything. I know the tactics they use when they're blowing you off. I know the tactics they use when you've got somebody there and present for your rights. I know there's a change in their tone. I know there's a complete change in their questioning. They treat the victims like the predators. For me, it didn't matter how much evidence I had, because no matter what, when I was telling about the things that, well, they did have an effect on my decisions. How could they not? People threatening to kill my friends and family, and threatening to kill people like Sarah Bacon and her family. Threatening to kill people like, well, my little sister and my niece. And these people keep at it. Meanwhile, I don't have the electronic abilities or the place to do it. I am in a constant state of panic. I cannot function. The more of this that happens, the more I am forced into situations like this where I am stuck and stranded. And yes, I get that I drove here. But you know what? Try looking at it from my point of view. People are threatening to kill my little sister and my niece still. And I have to be afraid to go to the cops about it. My sister is obviously afraid to go to the cops about it. My friend Amanda's finally going to Nebraska. Things are not the way that she wanted them to be. And also, well, she could have helped me in person, but I can't be there for safety reasons because of the Dual County Sheriff's Department. And because all the jurisdictions around them, the Sheriff Scott Costa was able to utilize. And somehow magically it's legal. You say, oh, they can't do that, they can't do that, but they can. They did. Telling me they can't do it doesn't change the fact that they did it. No matter how many times you say it, it's not going to make you right. The evidence shows otherwise. The problem is I'm in a constant state of movement and a constant state of panic. No, I can't function. I can't take care of myself. I can't defend myself. I try explaining this stuff. They don't do trauma. Meanwhile, the trauma is from stuff that's all against the law. We get to see people going to jail every day. You get to see literally the predators that I tried to turn in on the news on their way to prison. Literally by name, the ones that I've been telling you about on their way to prison, and still you treat me like I'm crazy. The facilities in specific that I'm telling you about are getting busted still, abusing people repeatedly, and you pretend that I'm crazy. These very same officers by name who killed people. And still, even with that proven, you still want to pretend like I'm crazy. Sarah Bacon keeps on gonna speak out, gonna. The problem is that there's always gonna be some reason she can't. In 6 years' time, if you haven't found time, 5 years' time, there's something wrong there. And Sarah tells me, I'm sorry, I'm a bad friend, I'm sorry. Well, come forward. If these things are true, you should have no problem speaking out about them. If these things that you claim that you did, if you actually did them, you should have no problem speaking out about the fact that you did them. I try to believe people. You look at what the police wrote down versus what my so-called friends told me. They're not the same thing. The things that the police wrote down were used to deny me my rights in court and elsewhere. There's a reason I asked you to come forward. When you say you don't know nothing, well, you know that you did try to help. The fact that you didn't speak up means that you didn't try to help. The only thing that made a difference was whether or not you spoke out, because without you speaking out, those cops got to say whatever they wanted. And it's your choice to be shitty communicators, to not to listen to the victim. I get told I should shut up because I'm white and I'm pampered. I should shut up because I'm male and I'm pampered. No, I'm not. I stick up for black rights. I stick up for women's rights. There's a reason for that. Those are my rights too. I am more likely to be victimized than any woman or any black person in this country. Statistically, by a lot. And you get to hear how the cops treat you when you're poor. You know what? If it was Bill Gates who walked in there, they would be all sorts of Johnny on the spot about listening to every detail, doing whatever they can, bringing him some fucking coffee, of course. All these people that got this idea that the cops are allowed to lie, they're not. They're not allowed to lie. They're not allowed to entrap you in that way. They're not allowed to put your life at risk that way. Before they're going to take me seriously, I need someone there in person. And that's the problem from the very start, is that nobody was actually coming forward. They were claiming that they did, and I got a few little tidbits where they spoke up about little teeny tiny bits on their own. But they didn't produce any of that evidence. They want to tell me I got to produce it. Well, nobody's looking when I do it. They're calling me a liar and saying I made you up. I made up Sarah Bacon. I made up Kayla Trujillo. I made up her brother. I made up Joanna Taylor Smith. I made up the things that we said to each other. I made up these messages and texts. I must have made them up, huh? Because you said so. No matter what the evidence says, you call me mentally ill, I don't get to show it. I'm forced to go to cops who have already done messed up stuff to try to turn this stuff in. I have to turn them into their own department, especially in a small department. That is a very bad thing. When you're a disabled homeless person, everybody blows you off, and it's nobody's job. They tell you it's your family's job. Your family tells you it's the government's job. Government says it's your family's job. Family says it's your government's job. That's the reality of it. They tell you first, you go to your predator and you tell them how it makes you feel. What do? They make fun of you and threaten to kill you and pretend like you're stalking them. So then, you Go to your friends and you try to explain it. And what do? They talk over you and tell you how to think and how to feel. They don't listen to what's going on, and they tell you about all of their personal problems. You're trying to get help stopping violence against you, and they're going to tell you about, well, stuff that is quite piddly by comparison. So you go to your friends and family for help, because that's actually what they say is friends and family, not just friends. I just say friends because my family's not going to help. My sister wanted to, but there are safety issues and concerns there that are not being addressed by local law enforcement because local law enforcement are the ones who are creating the safety issue. They don't investigate any of the crimes against me because they've committed plenty of crimes against me, and they are all for anybody who hates me and assisting them and pressing charges against me for any piddly shit that they can go out of their way to take out of context. Lovely, right? A lot of people, their excuse for dipping out is their families were being threatened. And then they want to pretend I'm a horrible person for showing the messages between us where they're telling me their families are being threatened. But this is what is very much a driving force in many of my decisions. Is people letting me know that their families are threatened. Well, you know what? If you choose to dip out, that's on you. You never actually helped. For my sister to still be threatened, my sister to still have to go through this, and my niece and myself is not fucking okay. Somebody needs to step in and get involved.